KFC, the beloved fried chicken chain that has won over the hearts and stomachs of people worldwide. We've all indulged in their finger-licking good chicken, crispy fries, and other delicious offerings. However, behind this massive brand lies a dark underbelly of disturbing truths that many may not be aware of. From animal welfare issues to questionable ingredients, KFC's practices have been the subject of scrutiny and criticism. So, before you take that next bite of your favorite KFC meal, let's take a closer look at the unsettling realities behind this fast food giant. At first glance, the story of KFC's founder, Harland Sanders, is one of persistence and tragedy that eventually turned into entrepreneurial global success. However, there's also a dark twist. He worked many jobs throughout his life, including being a streetcar conductor, railroad firefighter, insurance salesman, secretary, and even a justice of the peace court judge. However, he faced failure at every step, and his stint in the justice of the peace court ended abruptly when he was accused of physically abusing his own client. It was the year 1927 when Harland ran a Standard Oil gas station in Nicholasville, Kentucky, but he had to shut down the business due to the Great Depression and the following drought. He then lost $38,000 trying to open an airport in Corbin, Kentucky. His wife, Josephine King, was not pleased with his inability to keep a job, and she ended up abandoning him for a short time, taking their children with her. Later, he lost his son Harland Jr., who was only 20 years old, to a routine tonsillectomy procedure. The loss of his son caused Harland to sink into depression, and in 1947, he and Josephine divorced after 40 years of being together. In 1930, Harland started a gas station in Corbin with the help of Shell, and he cooked and catered to all those who visited the gas station, earning a few extra bucks. However, trouble started brewing between him and his rival gas station owner Matt Stewart, which led to both firing shots, resulting in the death of a Shell manager. A few years later, Harland removed the gas pumps and set up his first full-fledged restaurant, where he worked on perfecting his famous chicken recipe. In 1939, he found a method of pressure cooking the chicken that would cut down on his cooking time and make an even more delicious dish than before. His restaurant business saw continued success, but in the 1950s, two blows of bad luck struck Harland rapidly and put his newfound success at risk. The first blow hit when the highway junction in front of his restaurant was relocated, ending the heavy traffic that regularly passed by and provided him with a steady flow of customers. Then came the announcement of a new interstate highway that was to be built on a location that bypassed Harland's restaurant by 7 miles. In 1956, realizing that his restaurant was about to be left in the dirt, Harland auctioned off the site of his restaurant, taking a loss on the sale. He had no income to support him and was forced to scrape by on his savings and his monthly Social Security check of $105. Despite these setbacks, Harland was enterprising and ever hopeful. He decided to sell his secret recipe to franchise restaurants in return for a small fee. He demanded 4 cents for every chicken they sold using his recipe, and his friend Pete Harmon from Salt Lake City was the first one to take Harland up on the offer. Pete's sales went through the roof since he began to serve chicken made with his friend's special recipe. Harland had to always stay on the lookout for suitable franchise restaurants and would have to convince the restaurant owner to allow him to cook some chicken for the restaurant's employees. If they enjoyed this new recipe, he would then cook for the restaurant's customers for a few days. After that, it was only if they, too, approved that the restaurant would enter into negotiations to start franchising for Harland. This arduous and, at times, humiliating process was tiring him out. Harland still had no money and would live out of his car, surviving on meals thrifted from his friends. However, his persistence paid off, and the success of his franchise eventually came. By 1964, Harland had franchised over 600 outlets and built a successful business selling chicken made using his recipe, but there was no KFC yet. John Y. Brown and Jack Massey, 2 young lawyers, noticed Harland's growth and pressured him to sell his company. Despite Harland's initial refusals, they eventually wore him down and he sold the company for $2 million, with the condition that they keep his recipes intact. However, the new owners, including Hugh Blyning, who later acquired the company, did not keep their promise. They used their own recipes, charged a franchise fee, and took a percentage of sales instead of Harland's preferred rate. This caused a decline in the food quality, and Harland sued the company for $112 million for breaking their promise. They settled out of court, and Harland reportedly received $1 million. He took a more hands-on role in the company and taught the cooks the right methods for preparing his recipes. Colonel Sanders died in 1980. Almost 40 years later, in 2018, John Schnatter, the founder of Papa John's Pizza, found himself in hot water after he was accused of using a racial slur during a conference call. The incident caused a PR disaster for Papa John's, with Schnatter stepping down as the company's chairman and facing widespread backlash. However, later that year, Schnatter decided to make some controversial remarks about another iconic figure in the fast food industry, Colonel Harland Sanders, the founder of KFC. In an interview with a Kentucky radio station, Schnatter claimed that Colonel Sanders had used the N-word in reference to African Americans and had never faced any backlash for it. Schnatter's comments immediately caused a stir, with many questioning the validity of his claim. While it was true that Colonel Sanders had lived during a time of racial tension and segregation, there was no concrete evidence to support Schnatter's accusations. Moreover, many KFC fans and supporters were quick to defend Colonel Sanders, pointing out that he had built a successful business that welcomed people of all races and backgrounds. KFC's parent company, Yum Brands, also responded to Schnatter's comments, stating that they had no evidence to support his allegations and that they did not tolerate discrimination of any kind. They also pointed out that Colonel Sanders had passed away in 1980 and was not able to defend himself against such accusations. However, the controversy surrounding Schnatter's remarks did not die down quickly. Some individuals pointed out that his accusations seemed to be an attempt to deflect attention away from his own controversy and shift the spotlight onto another iconic figure in the fast food industry. So, was Colonel Sanders a racist? He wasn't. This American Life did a story on his life and his African-American assistant Ray Callender. Ray's own words, there wasn't a racist bone in his body. For that fact, he bent over backwards to make a change. If the perception of him being a racist was real, he wanted to overcome that. But the controversy surrounding him doesn't stop here. For decades, there has been an ongoing controversial discussion about the origins of the famous Kentucky Fried Chicken original recipe. The controversy is whether or not the recipe that made KFC founder Colonel Harland Sanders a wealthy billionaire was stolen from an African-American woman named Miss Childress. According to some sources, including the African Diaspora Facebook page, the claims are true. Miss Childress was, in fact, the woman behind the original KFC recipe. Not only did Colonel Sanders steal her recipe, he later tried to pay her $1,200 for it, and then the company went on to become a multi-billion global empire. Another unverified source says that Miss Childress died in poverty, which doesn't sound very far-fetched. The problem, however, is that there is no real solid evidence that proves any of this, but there is a pattern in history that reflects a similar narrative. In fact, there are quite a few accusations of white entrepreneurs and chefs taking recipes from African Americans without giving them the due credit. For example, it's been proven that the inventor of the Jack Daniels recipe was a former slave. Sadly, it's often very hard to prove because many blacks during those times were denied the right to learn to read and write. Because of this, they were not able to properly document their culinary practices and recipes nor understand legal documents pertaining to intellectual property. But for many, the success of KFC is obviously attributed to Miss Childress' recipe, which was a blend of herbs and spices used to season the chicken itself. During those times in the 1950s, America's best-tasting fried chicken, cornbread, greens, and other popular dishes were traditionally prepared and cooked by black women, usually maids or family housekeepers. White people were typically clueless in mastering these types of cuisines. In the end, we might never know the full truth behind the origins of the KFC recipe and whether or not Miss Childress was truly the creator. What we know, though, is the fact that the original recipe has suffered multiple changes and that they are currently use some ingredients which are really bad for you. Even in an industry generally disinterested with consumer health, KFC's list of ingredients tends to be disconcertingly lengthy. On a long list of suspect ingredients, the petroleum-based preservative TBHQ is among the most questionable. Of course, copious amounts of salt, monosodium glutamate, and maltodextrin lend a helping hand in making various menu items irresistibly tasty and incredibly unhealthy. In a surprising twist, however, it's their chicken pot pie that's among the worst offenders. With an ingredient list that reads like a short story, it delivers 71% of your daily total fat, 88% of your daily sodium, and 185% of your daily recommended saturated fat. Though it ranks as one of the most popular fast food brands in the world, KFC has had its share of gross moments. It's a well-documented legacy, in fact. There are bound to be some nasty happenings from time to time when you operate over 25,000 locations worldwide. KFC's controversy did not only involve accusations of racism, but also sexism. In 2020, KFC Australia received backlash for a TV commercial promoting its Zinger popcorn box, which was criticized for being sexist. The ad showed a woman adjusting her cleavage in front of a parked car with tinted windows, only to reveal two young boys and a disapproving mother in the car. The Australian advocacy group Collective Shout criticized the ad, claiming that it reinforced harmful gender stereotypes. KFC apologized for any offense caused and stated that their intention was not to stereotype women or young boys in a negative light. In 2005, 7-year-old Monica Salmon's life was allegedly forever changed after eating a KFC chicken wrap in Australia. Salmon's family claimed that the chicken was contaminated with Salmonella, which resulted in the child falling into a coma, suffering severe brain damage, and ultimately being confined to a wheelchair. KFC denied responsibility and disputed the claim that their food caused the poisoning. Despite this, the judge in the case found KFC liable for the incident. In 2012, the family was awarded $8 million in compensation, but KFC later launched an unsuccessful appeal to have the verdict reversed. It's 2013 and a video emerged showing a KFC employee repackaging Old Mac and cheese and green beans to serve to customers the next day. The fast food chain faced intense scrutiny. The video, which went viral again in 2017, resulted in KFC issuing a statement to distance itself from the actions of the former employee and to reassure customers that their food handling practices have improved since then. However, the scandal has left a lasting impact on the public's perception of the chain. Despite KFC's efforts to ensure food safety, the incident is a reminder of the potential dangers of outsourcing food preparation to low-paid workers who may not adhere to proper food handling procedures. Just 1 year later, a rumor that KFC uses mutated chickens with extra limbs is going viral on Facebook and Twitter. A story citing a University of New Hampshire study claims that the federal government forced KFC to shorten its name from Kentucky Fried Chicken when it stopped using real chickens and started using these tube-fed genetically modified organisms. KFC spokesman Rick Maynard has confirmed that the claim is baseless and has been debunked numerous times. Maynard emphasized that KFC only uses high-quality poultry from reputable suppliers like Tyson and Pilgrim's Pride, which are recognized brands found in local supermarkets. This fact has also been supported by Snopes.com, a website that investigates urban legends and rumors, which revealed that KFC's name change in 1991 was not due to any government regulations, but rather a menu redesign that aimed to remove the word fried. Despite their statements, KFC serving millions of meals each year means KFC is producing and processing millions of chickens. What does this mean for the animals? It means crowded conditions that aren't always healthy or humane. As The Guardian reported in 2020, the company acknowledged that inflammation of the foot is common on many of their UK farmed chickens. Some of this stems from the size of the chicken. A normal KFC chicken is superbred to reach its capacity weight in only 30 days, which taxes its physical systems and makes it difficult for the animals to move. Ammonia from waste products can also burn chickens, which then leads to the need for antibiotics. Pretty gross when you realize these animals are meant to enter the food chain. For World Animal Protection, petitioners from 10 countries spoke out against the treatment in 2018, which has led to KFC becoming more transparent with how their animals are treated. As the World Animal Protection shared the following year, KFC committed to pursuing more humane chicken farming methods in Europe as part of a larger effort among food providers to prevent cruelty and neglect in the animal food industry. In 2020, KFC announced the company would be implementing a new set of worldwide guidelines for chicken farming practices. But as The Guardian noted in 2022, there's still some debate about the chicken's living conditions. As we can see, KFC has had its fair share of controversies over the years. From the infamous secret recipe to allegations of food mishandling and mistreatment of workers, the fast food giant has faced scrutiny from all sides. And while some scandals may have blown over, others have had lasting impacts on the company's reputation and bottom line. As consumers, it's up to us to stay informed and hold companies accountable for their actions. By speaking out against injustice and demanding better from the businesses we support, we can help create a more fair and ethical marketplace for everyone. So, the next time you bite into a piece of KFC chicken, remember that there may be more to the story than meets the eye. And since we've mentioned the controversy behind Jack Daniel's company, make sure to hit subscribe because you will for sure want to check it as soon as it is uploaded. I hope you enjoyed the KFC story, and I'll see you in the Jack Daniel's video in a couple of days. Cheers!